Oh, goodness. I don't have my stuff fully set up. Ah, give me a second, folks. I'm a goofy goober. Let's get this clipped in. Here we go. Turn on the robot. Come on, robot. Hello, follow me. Okay. And this looks like it's just slightly off tilt. A little bit. That's better. Okay, hey. Good afternoon. It is Tuesday, October 8th. My name is Rob. I'm that developer dad, and I didn't stream this morning. I apologize. I did have a second round interview for a job with the company as a enterprise architect, and fingers crossed. The first interview with the guy who would become my boss happened last Thursday afternoon, and came away from that one feeling really, really good. This one, the guy that I was talking with was a little harder to read, but we seemed to vibe on all the right things. So hopefully, we're going to continue moving forward with the process. Um, what are we doing with the software that we're building here in this stream, though? Well, this week, I want to focus on compiler warnings and getting rid of those. Now, why? Why do we want to clean these things up? Well, the dotNet compiler is really pretty good at pointing us to places that aren't definitely a problem, but could maybe cause problems at runtime if certain conditions are met. And I'm talking about things like possibly null references, non-nullable properties, exiting the constructor still in an uninitialized state, things like that. Stuff that can kind of get us in trouble down the line or cause some really frustrating errors at runtime that are A, hard to track down, and B, kind of hard to fix without possibly breaking other things. So that's my focus this week as I wait for some of the real world things that need to happen before I can actually launch this as a product. Um, just businessy type things. I want a bank account set up to feed any revenue that comes in, so that it's not going into my personal banking and getting all tangled up in my personal finances and so on. I want to keep everything as segmented and segregated away from my personal matters as much as I possibly can. So without further ado, let's get into some of these compiler warnings. And we've got a whole bunch in the Blazor client, and I'm not surprised. I've been learning Blazor as we go, so inevitably there's going to be some issues there. We've got a few in some of our test classes. I'm not super concerned about those yet, but we do have a couple up here in the API workload provider. So let's get into those right now. All right, so the payload result dot consumption may be null. Let's take a look at what's going on with those. So once we have user stuff, update the user's usage. Consider doing this as a disconnected async so we don't have to wait for the DB write to return the AI response to the user. That's a great idea. I'm not setting up any kind of message bus or queuing system yet. So I'm going to take this part of my to-do message out because we're absolutely calling out and sending that to the database. Consider doing this as a disconnected async. I'll leave that there. So result payload dot consumption. API payload dot result equals character attributes. Where's our result? Payload may be null. Okay. AI response is string empty. This is where we are getting our character attributes out and all of that stuff. This is where we're pulling the consumption metrics down through here. And the updated quotas. Copying the errors, copying errors. Okay. Log token consumption, that's a different op. API payload. Resource result of character properties. Okay, that's right. The resource result. Let's go take a look at resource result. All right. We've got our quota container and our result. All right. So that's what that is. Carries the most recently updated quotas for the user that requested the operation for which this is a result. Carries the result of the operation. Save. So yeah, resource result is a wrapper class that just kind of combines a couple of different things into one thing. I wanted to add some extra explanation about what this is and why it exists. So over here where we have our compiler warning, result payload.consumption. So the result payload is going to be a nullable AI function result. Now in here, we're invoking the resource. We are using the AI to generate the description of our NPC. Generated character properties. Okay, that's the API payload. Now, AI worker, execute function async. That's what kicks off the AI LLM process. And here we go. Payload. Now, copy errors 2. Was successful. And AI manager result dot payload is not equal to null. This payload is an AI function result. So let's get rid of var here. AI function result. Result payload. Result payload is not null here. Boop. Because if AI manager result dot payload is null, we won't fall in here. We're going to come down to, let me collapse this big if block. Copy errors to that. API result if AI manager result dot payload equals null, GUID error ID equals a new GUID string error message equals string the invocation of returned a null result. Now we have function name here. A null result. Other errors may have occurred. There we go. And we are API result. Spell it right, Rob. Add error, error ID, and message. Result payload.ai response. Result payload is absolutely not null. Possible null value to non-nullable type. Why are you doing this? This is very odd. String.empty. Fine. Strip markdown, parse from JSON. Let's make sure parse from JSON is doing a null or empty check. If string.is null or white space, return gen props. Save. So we're not even going to try to parse the JSON if it's null or empty. Just a little bit of defensive stuff here. So save that. Control minus brings us back to where we were. Here's this, dereference. Result payload is not null here. What are you talking about? let's use the thing there, because we know it's not going to be null. If result payload is null, or if AI manager result.payload is null, we're going to the next block of logic. Get value or default. What are you complaining about? Heck with it. We'll use the coalescing operator. Do the same thing here. There. Build. And let's see. Copy errors to not create the AI generated details for user, blah, 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 logger, log error, payload. We're wrapping it all up and we're getting back our operation result. Okay. I want to add some testing around this, but I need to do a whole lot more thought around it first. Parse from JSON. Okay, that's fine. There is no include AI parameter on this method. You're out of here. Who's even calling this? Okay. NPC JSON. I don't think that's used anywhere. Nope. Goodbye. This reference can go away. Generate NPC, townsfolk user options. Okay. And that's calling into the manager, generate townsperson from options. Good. Get NPC JSON. Okay, that's fine. This is save NPC. Resource result. It's here. I don't see any more compiler warnings in there. So build, rebuild the solution. And it's setting my dice engine tests and all of my other testy things. we go. All right. And it looks like the bulk of the compiler warnings that are left are in GameTools.Blazor client. And that's to be expected. Let's start working through them one at a time. We can close that. I'm going to, let's see here. Fixes the compiler warnings in the, what's the GameTools API workload provider, API dot workload provider project, commit. And let's start with app state provider dot razor. All right. App state loaded, app context key equals app context items changed. Context container needs to be see here, context container, yeah. This does a whole bunch of stuff. So I suppose I need a constructor. Oops. New context container. And I believe context container is a custom class that I've stood up. Get current user, load if null, get user limits, set user limits, save changes async, on context item changed. Now, what's context item changed? You're up here, you're nullable. What are you complaining about? Dereference of a possibly null reference. Fine. If context item changed is not equal to null, then just why are you still complaining about the null reference? Okay, I guess that's gone. Okay, that'll have to do. Save. Let's come up here. Create NPC page model. Where is current user? Uninitialized. Let's find current user. Here it is. I guess we should make this null. Save it. right. Find NPC list, current page state is never assigned to. Is it ever used? Find all references. Execute filter, okay. So what that says to me is we need to look for something that might set that handle page state changed. Wait, execute filter, state is changed. Oops, where are we? Here we go. And current page state equals notification dot new value. Yeah. All right. And now instead of notification.newValue, I'm going to say current page state. Save. Let's get rid of that find all references. Come back to our error list. Save it all. Build, rebuild. And then we're going to spin it up. Because we've made some changes that could possibly impact the flow of the code. And I want to make sure I'm not making a mess of something. So here's this. It's up. We'll sign in as moi. Back. We'll go to NPCs. Here's Blinky Cat. And this does not appear to have been negatively impacted. But once it's loaded, I'm going to flip from screen to screen for a little bit and see what I can figure out. All right, let's view, back to list, new NPC, roll them, back to list. I think we're good. Yep. Yeah. Okay. So no negative, no side effects from those compiler errors that we just got rid of. So that's good stuff. Create NPC page model. Actually, I want to rebuild again just to see if you can get a full thing of a full list of compiler warnings again. And what are these messages? Turn off errors and warnings real quick. Collection initialization can be simplified, use compound assignment, new expression, blah, 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 blah. It'll be marked as static. Yeah. These are just sort of suggestions. I'm not going to mess with those. All right. Usage information. App context. This should be that. That should be that. Okay. State has changed. Now, where is app context declared? Okay, app state provider is already null, so that's good. Get rid of that. App context. And also, app context is not equal to null. We'll just throw a null check in there. Keep that happy. Save. Okay, toggle text. Do references. These are all up in view NPC attributes. NPC service proxy, details, page model. All right, let's close this. This. Let's come into the page model. Let's go here. App context.get current user. Guard NPC services exists. Okay. And what method is this? This is get AI description. Load if null. And we'll let it throw if it's not loaded, or if it can't be loaded. If user equals null, what are we doing if the user is null? Do we have a logger here? We don't. I hate throwing. Cannot invoke the AI for an NPC. Cannot process an AI request for an unknown user. The current user is null. There. We'll have to just do that. Not in love with it, but it does take care of that. Get AI description. Guard app context exists. Guard user exists. All right, we're going to have to use these guard clauses, I think. It's a whole lot more elegant than just throwing this stuff, littering this throughout. So that's what we're going to do. Let's go to the definition. Guard NPC services exist. Private void guard app context exists. Grab this, come down here. Private void here we go. These methods are going to basically protect us from these types of things. I'm going to pop back up here where I was, I think. Where was I? Load selectable. We were in the get AI description. Here we go. So, first thing. Come down here. If app context is null, throw new invalid operation exception, cannot perform the requested task while the application context is not populated. Goodbye, Nationwide Skillet. I had a spammer. They're gone now. Request a task while the application context is not initialized. It's vague, but whatever. Control minus to get us back to where we were. Here we are. And here, what we're going to do we use the null-forgiving. It gives me slightly gives me the creeps, but it's what we got to do. Now we're going to go to the definition here. Control C. We'll go here. Var user equals that. If user is null. Cannot perform the requested task while the current user is unknown. So basically, if the user can't be queried, we're going to throw up all over the place. And before I call app context, guard app context exists. Now, it's complaining about an error. Boop, there's that. And that's up in app context. Now, there's no need for us to call guard app context and then immediately call guard app context again. So let's run up to where this is being called. And we don't need that. Save that. So now we can use the null-forgiving. If user equals null, we can get rid of this because we're doing the exact same thing in the guard clause. We can use the null-forgiving again here because if user is null, we've already thrown. Don't love it, gonna have to do. And okay. Save all that. And let's scroll down. Let's keep our focus on CreateNpcPageModel. And let's see if it'll just give us the errors in the current document. Here we go. Let's look for the dereference. We're in the save NPC. So guard NPC services exists. Let's add guard user exists. We do that. If current user equals null, return NPC model. All right. We can actually get rid of that because current user will not be null here. Current user is absolutely in existence. So we can use that null forgiving. Here's all that stuff. We can return the proxy result payload. Proxy result errors, first to default value, throw new exception error. Yeah, this is something that I need to do. Developer JSON pulled in. Also fix the tests I broke by changing the townsperson manager constructor. That I've gotten rid of. Load NPC, here's all that stuff. Attempt to load NPC failed. All right. Meh. Okay. Add logging. Yeah, we definitely need to add logging. Now, there is a way. If I come up here into the component base, public logger of create NPC page model. Logger gets set. Inject, because that's how Blazor component injection works. Logger will make it nullable. There we go. Bring this back to the entire solution. And I have some to-dos. And let's just say current document. Find all. Add logging. Here we go. Excuse me. Now, there is a thing, there is a way in C# to know who called my method. And I'm going to add it. C Films, how's it going? Come on, Edge. Up you get. It's taking a minute. It might be installing an update or something silly like that. Here we go. All right, let's go to Copilot. Come on, Copilot. You can do it. All right. In C#, I know there's a way to add a method parameter attribute so that I can identify which method called into the method I'm writing. I just can't remember what it is. Called from method, source file path, source line number. Beautiful. Okay, so let's pull these over here. And I believe this makes things semi no need. Or semi, I don't have to pass them. So let's go color member name. String called from equals quote quote. I'm going to need to bring in the system.runtime.compiler services called from, and we're going to drop this stuff down on the next line. Color file path string color file equals quote quote. Called from, I'm going to change that to color method. Color line number, int color line num equals 0. Now, what are we going to do with this stuff? Well, string message equals NPC services is null. Cannot perform the requested operation. NPC services is null. What are you complaining about? It's assigned, but its value is never used. Yeah, we know it's not used yet. Message. There's that. Now, var log entry equals new GUID. Error ID equals GUID.new GUID. Derp. Error ID. We're going to do that. Yeah, we'll do that. Now, error ID equals error ID dot to string. And I need to do that as a method invocation, not a property call. Message equals message color method color file color line num equals color line num, and error time equals datetime dot UTC now dot to string. The job hunt continues. I had my second interview with the third organization that I spoke with last week. I had the second interview with them today, and I'm cautiously optimistic. String log entry JSON equals JSON serializer dot serialize log entry. I believe it's a matter of convincing a hiring manager and their cousin and the VP and somebody in the janitorial division to believe in me as well. Excuse me. Logger dot log error. Now I don't have a exception message to pass. I do, however, have log entry JSON. There we go. I do have skills and knowledge. It's just a matter of having the skills and knowledge that a particular organization wants to pay me for. That's the long and short of it. All right, so there's this, and this feels like a really nice way of wrapping things up. Now, I don't want to repeat all of this crap for every one of these guard clauses. Now, I can't get away from repeating this. So I'm going to come down here to guard app context exists. I'm going to paste those there. And I'm going to paste into here as well. And let's grab this string. Paste it here. Fix my spelling mistake there. Okay. Come up here. And this stuff, I'm going to extract method. Log error. Bam. Okay, good. Now this, I'm going to move it because I want to keep all of my guard clauses together. And we're going to drop this down here. I need to grab these. All right. And I'm going to paste. And I'm going to paste. C# is an incredibly popular coding language, but more and more as time goes by these days, companies want C# and Python and JavaScript and full knowledge, like expert level knowledge of frameworks that were invented like last year, and the hiring requirements have become unreasonable, I want to say. So it's been incredibly difficult to even get people to talk to me because I am very specialized into the C# and dotNet space. I've got the the system design stuff and the execution of the design. I've got all that stuff down, and I like to think I'm a decent teacher and a decent mentor and all that. But it's really hard to put that across in a couple of 1 or 2 hour conversations. All right, so now we've got our logging in place for whenever any of those scenarios get goofy. Let's see if there's anything else inside the Create NPC page models, and I don't see anything, so that's good. And we're going to go back to entire solution. I'm going to very quickly add logging capability to Create NPC Page Model.cs. Removed the compiler warnings from same. Resolves, not removes. Commit. Okay. And we don't have any more compiler warnings in Create NPC Page Model, so I think we're at a good stopping point. Tomorrow, NPC Page Model, here we go. Here's some more for some crazy reason. Where are we? What are you talking about? Build. Let's rebuild. I'm going to wrap up as soon as I've verified that the compiler warnings are all resolved in this class. Let's take a look at the current document. It says there's none. Go to the entire solution. There's a few in list raiser or NPC list. There's a bunch in NPC attributes. And then we've got a few in some of our test classes. And we've got some in details and one in service proxy. But yeah, we're getting there. We've cut them down by more than half in the past 3 sessions. So not bad. We are, oh, nice. Very nice. Using all PHP and SQL like you mentioned yesterday, C-Films. I've looked at PHP a couple of times and I'm like, I'll stick with dotNet because I can do anything that I need to do with dotNet pretty much. Yeah, PHP, SQL, and JavaScript. Yeah. Are you using Laravel at all, or just raw, plain vanilla PHP? All right, I think we're in a good spot here. Everything's committed. I'm going to go ahead and push to the server. No frameworks, no libraries. Okay, yeah. So you're just using plain vanilla PHP, plain vanilla JavaScript. Yeah, I kind of prefer that setup myself. I find a lot of frameworks. I mean, obviously, .NET is a gigantic framework, and I use it quite a lot. But for just straight web development, I like to stay as close to the vanilla platform as possible. I've seen NuGet lists get unreasonable. In the JavaScript world, people are now making jokes and memes about how heavy the node packages folder gets. And you know, I've seen jokes about the npm is odd library, stuff like that. And Yeah, I like to stick as close as possible to vanilla. Um, Unless, of course, a package or a library or framework has some really compelling implementation or is implementing a use case or feature capability that I don't want to write because it's so far outside my area of expertise or so outside the focus of the application I'm writing. For instance, I do intend to bring in some Sync Fusion stuff to convert some of my Blazor controls to PDFs for download. But that's going to come along a little bit later. My favorite ice cream flavor is by far Moose Tracks. Anything with Reese's and like any chocolate ice cream base and Reese's and pretzels and yumminess, I'm all over it. So we've had a pretty productive session today. C-Films, I am going to sign off here because I've had coffee and I'm old, and that means I need to run to the bathroom very quickly. And I don't want to burn myself out because I've got some research and design, pre-design work to do for the next major portion of this project that's going to be starting in a week or so. But I want to get the research and kind of get the shape of things figured out, and then I'll talk through the design and implementation aspects once we get there. But there are some things that I need to learn before we get there. So today's been good. I thank you for joining me. Take care of yourselves. If you're in the path of any hurricanes or weather events, please be safe. Get out of the way if you can, because there's a big nasty one coming from Florida right now. And I will see you all tomorrow. I'm that developer dad. Happy coding. Take care, everybody.